Yang Hansen, the 16th pick in the NBA draft.
Never heard of him. I did not see a single mock draft that had him as a first-round pick, and the Blazers did not have a second-round pick, and so every time I read a mock, which was too many times to count in the weeks leading up, even though I'm not a huge fan of those, but it's just a good gauge of getting a sense of what names are around the general area that your team will be drafting. Every time I got to the end of the first round, I clicked the link close, and I didn't read the second round. I'd never heard of this cat before.
The Athletic has some posts. We got audio we're going to play here, too, of the reaction to Portland taking Yang Hansen at 16. Sam Vecini had him ranked 48th. 48th ranked prospect.
48th.
He says Yang has several intriguing skills. Anytime a player with that's big with elite passing vision and touch around the rim, there's going to be a lot of intrigue. I worry it's going to be hard for Yang to actualize those things in the NBA because of his high-hipped frame, lack of explosiveness, and lack of lateral ability. Even though skill absolutely matters to players like that, the guys who tend to make it in the mold are generally the biggest bullies on the court. Jokic, Sabonis, Vucevic, Karl-Anthony Towns to some extent. They all put their shoulder into NBA big men. Yang doesn't have that ability. His defensive translation to the NBA is a major question as well. I love big skilled centers who can give you a chance to play five-out basketball. I just don't buy that Yang enough as a shooter and don't buy the functionality of his game. John Hollinger added, I'm sorry, what? Nobody had Yang as a first-rounder. I believe that's inaccurate, actually. I think Raphael Barlow had him at 27 to the Nets. There was a lot of net intel. He's
Never
big.
heard of that guy.
He's
Is he
fairly
a Nets writer?
Who?
Raphael Barlow.
He's a draft cover guy.
Oh, draft cover guy. Okay.
Substack. He's very popular in the draft world.
Okay.
He's big. He's fairly skilled. I think he's potentially a solid backup because of his offense, but this is a serious reach by the Blazers on a player most expected to last well into the second round. The Blazers already had a surefire amount of centers at Ayton, Williams, and Klingon. It's not even clear what Yang's pathway to minutes is in Portland. I do not get this at all. We had some audio reaction. Let's start with the biggest podcast in basketball, debatably. Bill Simmons did this on his podcast, and I want you to take a listen.
And then Portland takes Russillo's guy, Yang Hansen.
That's Russillo's guy?
Yeah. Russillo loved him at the Combine. That was his guy.
Okay.
And he was our first guy from the stands. And then just a couple more really quick. Utah taking
Hold
Walter
on. Are we
Clayton.
not going to acknowledge that they massively reached for Hansen Yang? I mean,
Did they massively reach, or was it the steal of the draft? It's all in the eye of the
we'll
beholder.
tell, right? I may live to be the
7'2" Chinese guy who can throw backdoor cuts and doesn't speak English. I loved it.
Did he work out against a chair?
There was a part of it. His highlight tapes were going around Blazer Twitter last night.
I watched some of it.
The only thing I can think about watching all those
Like that
highlights.
guy, he going by 5'9".
Is he just playing against a bunch of dirts out there? Like, it looks like a bunch of 5'5" cars. He's just driving in the lane. There's nobody in the paint. Just, free dunks every time you want them. It was didn't look like a lot of competition.
Here is Matt Norlander. He covers the NBA draft for CBS. Here was his takeaway on the Blazers taking Yang Hansen.
Portland, we'll see what develops here. I know they had trouble bringing some players in this range because, fair or not, this is just the opinion shared with me by some league sources and on the agency side as well. There's a lot of questions about the direction Portland is in, the state it is in right now. I know a few players in the representation were not overly eager to have their players drafted into Portland. Maybe these things are all tied and connected, but yes, if I tell you what, if Igor Demon going to Brooklyn was a 6.8 on the shocking scale out of 10, this registers around a 9.5 overall. I can tell you, just because I got a couple texts here on my phone, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm the most absolutely connected NBA insider, very, very far from it, but I've got a few connections, and I can guarantee you that people around the league are shaking their heads and texting each other right now going, what on earth is Portland doing?
I loved that. I also loved this one. This is the no ceilings. We've had these guys on before. Metcalf, Rucker, those guys do such an exceptional job. They're absolute draft nerds. Yesterday was their Christmas day. This was their live show. They were live streaming, watching, reacting, giving thoughts. This was their live show takeaway while Portland was going to draft.
Oh, thank God. I don't have it up yet, so someone's going to have to officially announce it.
Oh, my God. Oh, they did it.
Oh my God, it needs to be a
Hansen
drop.
Yang to the Portland Trailblazers at 16.
This is a really good time for one of us to just be like, who?
Michael.
Insert the Bill Simmons. Whoa! What? Okay.
Okay, I don't know how we even begin to talk about this as he walks down the steps. I think that's with Rich Paul. I was there at the Lakers facility not too long ago when they had the Clutch Pro Day. I met with a scout there. I won't name who he was, but I met him after the Clutch Pro Day, and he was like, yo, I was like, hey, how was the Clutch Pro Day? Right? Because I wasn't allowed in. But he was like, no, it was great. You know, a lot of interesting guys, a lot of cool stuff. And I was like, cool. How was Hansen? Because like there were a ton of like Chinese reporters there and people there hanging out around him. And he goes, yeah, he was really bad. So to hear that and to be here at this point where he gets taken 16th by the Portland Trailblazers, someone needs to help us understand.
Sorry, we were hearing like he was a lock to Brooklyn in the 30s, at 36. That's what we were hearing. And it's like, all right, it feels kind of high, but you know, it's second round, so you take a swing, whatever. Yeah. I'm speechless. I don't understand. Like, there's his highlight tape rocks. There's some really fun offensive playmaking and post scoring stuff. I don't see how any of it translates to the next level.
So people are really high on this draft pick, if you can't tell.
So all those highlights you watched on Blaze or social media
against 5'5" Chinese guards,
guy who covers draft says, I don't know any of that's translating the NBA though.
All those guys look like they're under 5'7", and that's not usually how it works out in the NBA, Bob. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
Let's try to read some listener thoughts on this. Yang Hansen, 16th
overall. Not a Flyers second-round pick. Not a Ryan Rupert.
Not the last pick in the first round of just like, at this point, it's basically the second round.
What the hell are you going to do? Why not? Middle of the first round. After trading back to take this.
With 4 other centers already currently on your roster.
Yes, I think your math checks out there. 5 centers on the roster.